we had Sutton Smith in studio last week,
right?
And that's one of the things that he talked about is just he wants to be. I mean, I asked him the question. I said, what sets you apart in terms of your abilities? And I said, I know everybody wants to talk about the running back room being, pretty deep and kumbaya and everybody's happy and everybody just wants to see each other win.
Right.
And I'm like, but I know you want to be the guy.
Of course.
And he's like, yeah. And I said, what sets you apart? And he's like, man, I feel like I can just do it all. And the Tigers need somebody like that.
Well, and here's the thing. They have 3 guys deep in that backfield who are do-it-all backs. Bull Hargrove's a guy that I don't know how much run he'll get this year, but he's a 4-star, went to Mississippi State out of high school, ended up transferring here. He can catch really well out of the backfield. Sutton Smith is that way. Blake Watson, when he was at Old Dominion, is that way. He can catch a lot out of the backfield. Like, they have some guys with multiple different facets to their game in that backfield. And then they have 2, in my opinion, somewhat bruisers in between the tackles guys. Brandon Thomas is still on campus, as much as people haven't much talked about him. Yep. I remember his first 6 games 2 years ago, though. He looked like the next one in line, next running back in line. But Brandon Thomas and Jay Ducker can be those in between the tackles guys. Now, I think ultimately what Ryan has always wanted to do with that backfield, he's always wanted to have one guy that he leans on, but we haven't gotten to that point. We have yet to get to that point, but he has 5 guys deep, I think, that could be lead backs. It's just about who absolutely emerges. And you talked about it starting up front. O-line has to be better. And to be honest with you, I really want to see what these transfers do early. Can Marcus Henderson get involved and be a starter and play meaningful snaps early in the season? Can Xavier Hill from LSU get in there? He was competing for a starting spot at LSU last year. Can he get in there early and show something? That would give me a lot more hope about where that offensive line is early in the year.
It's going to be interesting to see. I mean, I think that is going to be the key for all of it, is what can the offensive line do? Have they, I think it's very safe to say that Ryan needed to make a switch at the offensive line position coach position last year. He needed to make that switch because he needed to find somebody that I think, kind of
was in lockstep
with him,
And here's the thing, and I think he did this with both of his hires this offseason, Larry Smith at wide receiver, Jeff Myers at O-line. He got 2 younger guys, more moldable, that will be more willing to listen to him. Because in the end of the day last year, and really since he's been here with Jim Bridge is an older coach. Jim Bridge is a guy who sort of has his thought process on how he wants to do things. He was really good friends with Mike McIntyre. I think that's part of the reason he ended up getting the job. But you have to have someone a little more moldable and willing to do what you want to do. And I think Ryan has that in Jeff Myers. I think he has that in a big way. They've been a lot more, he's been a lot more involved in the offensive line room than he has been since he took the head job. And I think he really wants to instill his lessons and how he got it done when he was under Mike Norvell. I think he wants to instill those lessons on Jeff Myers on the offensive staff more than he has in the past.
I mean, I just think it's clear that the success on the offensive side of the ball is going to live and die with the offensive line.
Yep.
To get those holes open for guys like Jay and guys like Brandon and guys like, Sutton, to not have to run it up the gut, two plays out of a
set of downs.
Thank you.
Yeah. No, here's the thing is, like, I think they need to be more multiple too. We've seen too many times these past 2 years, inside zone, outside zone.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it. That's all they tend to run. I mean, the power, they try to do some zone read works off of power looks, but the counter that was here, that Darrell Henderson ran so damn well for chunk plays, the counter that was here with Mike Norvell, it's just not here. Anymore. Kenny Gainwell, how well he was running the ball with all those multiple different looks.
Tell me what that means. Like
counter. So here's the thing: inside zone, outside zone are very easy concepts to grasp onto. O-line goes all one way. One hits wider and one hits a little more shallow. Right? Inside zone's usually the run up the gut that they constantly run when they get into those hurry up situations. And the idea is the running back is supposed to find his hole. He's supposed to read what the defense is giving him, how are the D tackles moving, where are the linebackers going, and he is supposed to find a hole and have good vision. And I thought Darrell Henderson did a good job with it. Tony Pollard was probably the best zone runner we had when I was there. I mean, his vision, and you see it with the Cowboys now, his vision was unbelievable. He would find his hole, put his foot in the ground and get north and south about as immediate as you could possibly imagine. Darryl was a little better with the gap running schemes, the power and the counter. And counter means, which is what we ran so well, is sort of the Lincoln Riley school of thought when he was at Oklahoma. Counter means you're going to have two pullers, one kicks out, one wraps up in the hole for the linebacker, and everybody else blocks down and tries to wipe away the entire D-line, get up on the linebackers.
Okay.
So that was such a staple of why Mike Norvell's offense ran so well. That was why our run game was so good, is because you could get those explosive plays because the defense is constantly on their heels with all these different schemes coming at them. They're trying to read polars one play, then they're trying to make sure they keep gap integrity on the next play. It just becomes tough the more different sort of schemes you run at a defense. And I feel like they've gotten away from it so big the past 2 to 3 years. And you know what's frustrating about that is Ryan is an offensive line coach by trade. I mean, the amount of knowledge he has about offensive blocking schemes is massive, but he has to get back into his bag like he was when Norvell was here.
Do you think that decision has been made because of a perceived, maybe the offensive line can't handle that?
I think probably a little bit of that. I think a lot of what we've seen is Ryan is a guy who has hired guys that he wants to go let cook in his coaching staff, right? He has a bunch of guys that he hires, he trusts them, he gives them full, their responsibility is their responsibility. He's going to be the CEO type guy. I think he's starting to get more involved, and that's something we need to see.